It is a busy first in the nation weekend with the state Democratic Party convention and 19 candidates campaigning in New Hampshire. This morning we're going to speak to two of them, both within striking distance of victory in February, but still with much work ahead to get there. First up, Senator Kamala Harris of California. Senator, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you again, Adam. Thank you.
So as we noted, you draw these massive crowds when you're here in New Hampshire, but some people say, gosh, we would really like to see her here more often. So are we going to see you start to show up in New Hampshire a little bit more frequently as we head into the fall months?
Absolutely, and I mean, I'll tell you, New Hampshire is, as I've said every time and many times, very, very important to me. New Hampshire, not only because it's a primary state, New Hampshire and the people of New Hampshire really do represent part of, the bellwether in terms of who we are as a country. And being in New Hampshire is also, for me, it highlights the realities of what is facing America, right? So it's everything from what we need to do to help rural communities, to agriculture, to Manchester, and rent that is out of control, opioid. There are just so many issues that are challenging us as a nation that New Hampshire is dealing with, and in many cases is a model of how it can be actually addressed on a larger scale. So yes, and we have 4 offices in New Hampshire. We have staff on the ground, and it's very important to me.
When you were last here in July on Conversation with the Candidate, you said you were a strong supporter of Medicare for all.
Yes.
Recently, you were saying you were uncomfortable with Bernie Sanders' plan, a single-payer plan, although his bill is, you were the first one to sign on to that into the Senate.
Yeah.
So with such a premium placed these days, especially among that activist base on purity and consistency in position, how do you square that?
I think you said it well, Adam. I've always been for Medicare for all. I am still for Medicare for all, but I have to be candid with you. I have spent a lot of time in New Hampshire and many other places talking with folks, and there have been concerns about the plan. I give Bernie a lot of credit for advancing a very important conversation, but I thought we could improve it. And so I came up with my own Medicare for all plan, and basically it brings down costs. Everyone will be covered, including those with pre-existing conditions, but I'm also giving people choice. Because a lot of the feedback I got is people want choice. They want the option of a public Medicare plan, but they also want the option of a private Medicare plan, such as what is existing now in the Medicare system. And I wanted to give them that. People don't want the things that they have now to be taken away by their government, and I appreciate that and I respect that. So that's a big point of distinction between my plan and Bernie's plan. It is also about saying that we have to understand that we need to give people a longer transition. There's so many people who are members of organized labor and unions who have negotiated down their wages for improved benefits for their health care plan, and the 4-year transition period under Bernie's plan just doesn't give people enough time to negotiate. And so my plan actually is for a 10-year transition period. And then the other distinction is that I'm not going to tax middle-class families who are making less than $100,000 a year, because I just think that they're paying enough and it's hard enough for them to get through the month.
We saw Obamacare take a pretty savage political beating just in a short time frame. With a 10-year phase-in, how does your plan survive those multiple election cycles?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, even Kathleen Sebelius, who was the architect of the Affordable Care Act, has endorsed my plan as the most effective plan to get coverage for all Americans. The experts all agree that within the first 5 years of my plan, the majority of Americans will be covered, because literally, not only can people transition to it on day 1, but every baby born, the day they are born, will be in the plan. And there are almost 4 million babies that are born every year in our country. So I'm not concerned about that. And I'll tell you another reason I'm not concerned. In addition to the fact that the majority of Americans will be in the plan in the first 5 years, the reality is that the American people rightly do not like it when government, whatever political party, tries to take away the things that they have earned and worked for, and the benefits that they have received. And we saw that when Donald Trump came in office and put everything he had into trying to destroy the Affordable Care Act. And we all remember that moment at that 2 o'clock in the morning when the late, great John McCain led and said, oh, no, you don't. And that is because people around the country in so-called red states, in blue states, regardless of their party affiliation, said, don't you, for political purposes, take away the health care that I now have that I did not have before. I know the same thing will be true as we go forward and implement my plan.
You have a new climate change plan out as well that is heavy
Yes.
on the enforcement side. Explain
Yes.
what are the consequences for polluters?
Well, I'll tell you in terms of background, Adam, I've been working on this for years and years and years. When I was district attorney of San Francisco, I created the first environmental justice unit, which was focused on the implications and the harm to many ignored communities because of polluters and dumping. When I was attorney general, I have taken on the big polluters, the big oil companies. And my plan then, in terms of my plan for America, I call it the climate plan for the people, is focused on a number of things, including accountability and consequence. Because I will tell you, and I think you'll appreciate this as much as anybody, you know, when I look at the children in my life, and in particular, I have 2 baby nieces. They're younger than your children, 1.5 and 3. And I think about what this world is likely to be when they turn 20, it will be drastically different if we do nothing. And this then has to be, you know, and frankly, I think about it in that way, and I think about the fact that since I've been in Washington, D.C. over these last 2.5 years, and this sounds so simplistic, but it's true, the Republican Party has denied the science and refuses to act. And I have to say that, you know, there are some issues that should just be, and are so obviously, I believe, not even bipartisan, but nonpartisan, and this is one of them. And when those folks are looking at the babies in their life, and then they look in the mirror, they should really be ashamed. And so my plan is about saying, 1, to that point, the biggest threat to our climate and our planet are polluters who are getting away with really bad conduct with no accountability or consequence. And maybe this is the prosecutor in me, but I will tell you that on this issue, there has to be accountability and consequence for the polluters who are emitting these greenhouse gases that are compromising our ability in a very short period of time to breathe clean air and drink clean water. So my plan deals with that. And again, informed in large part because of my background, my plan talks about what we need to do around often and long ignored communities, including our indigenous communities, including poor communities. You know, I'm spending a lot of time in rural America. Many of those families, their drinking water comes from wells in their backyard that are being contaminated. I'm looking at other parts of our country where children, including here in New Hampshire, the PFAS issue and what's happening in terms of toxic chemicals, and what we need to do to then upgrade our water infrastructure. So part of my plan is for $250 billion to upgrade the water infrastructure of America. I'm prepared to also declare a clean drinking water emergency, because in many places in our country that is a real issue. So these are the things that I'm proposing, but we have to act with a sense of urgency, and you can see that I feel very strongly about it. And not only because when I look at the babies of my life, your life, our life, but when I also look at what's possible. And here I will say, hopefully not with bravado, coming from California, where we had the toughest, some of the toughest in the nation, laws around greenhouse gas emissions. You go to a place like Los Angeles, where if you were there 20 years ago, you looked up at the sky, it was brown. Now you look up at the sky and it's blue, because leaders led and said, hey, we can do something about it. I've seen what is possible when there's leadership on this, and I'm prepared to lead.
Speaking of enforcement and your prosecutorial background, what does justice look like for Vladimir Putin under a Harris administration?
Well, 1, accountability for the fact that Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States. What it looks like is that, you know, I sit on, I think I'm the only candidate on the debate stage at this point who serves on the Senate Intelligence Committee and the Senate Homeland Security Committee, which means that I am often in the presence of members of our American intelligence community who outline in a classified setting the threats to our national security and hotspots around the world. And I will say that we all must know what the intelligence community has told us publicly. Russia interfered. And this is an attack on our democracy, and there should be consequence for that. Unlike the current occupant of the White House, who on this subject prefers to take the word of the Russian president over the word of the American intelligence community.
Senator Harris, we thank you for joining us for Close Up.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
We hope to have you back again at some point before the
Definitely,
primary. We appreciate your
definitely.
time.
Thank you.
All right.